All right, everybody.
We're live. David, I got a question for you.
Oh, starting out hot. What do you got?
How often do you rearrange that bookshelf behind you?
Um, I don't know when the last time is that I touched it. Why? Is
I feel like
something?
it looks different. I feel like are you more off center normally?
Yes, and my camera's in a different spot,
Okay.
so it should be a little more centered now than normally.
I just like the idea of you rearranging it every
No,
episode.
I did not rearrange it. Check out
I
my
would
sweet Larry Bird basketball, though.
I know. I noticed that last time. All right, what's your favorite book on that shelf?
Ooh, there's a lot. There's a much more down lower. Um, Fun read or business read?
Just favorite, whatever's speaking to you.
Um, Probably either Ready Player One, awesome
Okay.
book, or
Yeah.
Educated
Tell people about Educated real quick. Give them a little synopsis of that one.
by Tara Westover.
Yeah. Tell them a little bit about that one.
I don't want to get too into it. Um, but it's an awesome read. It's an awesome read about a girl who was like raised in the mountains, um, and goes on to get very well educated and do awesome things in life.
Mhm. Yeah.
But she
A lot of
was hardly,
a lot of resiliency in that story.
yeah.
Cole, it's a book about a girl who gets educated, obviously.
My guy, you know you haven't even read it. Lucas, have you Googled it? We know you don't like read, but you research. Have you even know about that book yet?
David told me about it when he read it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, good
I
story.
did read it.
And I kind of think that the woman who wrote it went on Joe Rogan. And I saw that podcast, but I could be getting it confused with someone else. I always get that confused with Jewel, the pop artist, because I think she grew up in Alaska in like a really tough situation, I think, or somewhere kind of out in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she was on Joe Rogan.
I think so too.
Tara was?
Yeah, I think so. I'll look at it right now.
I'd like to listen to that. That book is really good. It is worth a read. All right. That's all I wanted to know. I was curious.
What's your favorite thing in your background?
Let me see. What is in my background? All right. I got a good question. Obviously, I have a bunch of Legos, which I love and adore. I mean, my Legos go way back for me because I would play Legos with my dad and brother as a kid. And that was like one of my favorite memories was like playing with Legos every night. We would always build we would pick something. We're going to build like a tank or we're going to build an airplane. And we would always build our own. And then we'd have a giant battle at the end and just make them all like explode and like crash into each other. That was always a lot of fun. So I love all my Legos, but I would say the pictures aren't super high quality, but these pictures on this wall right here. Oh God, I'm not doing my finger right. These pictures on this wall right here are probably some of my favorite just because of the memories associated with them. Because those are all like trips that we've taken, that Christina and I have taken. But I don't love honestly those photos. I think they could be done in a better way and printed in a better way with better resolution. But I like what they signify, you know.
Enhance.
Enhance.
All right, Lucas, your turn. Favorite thing in your background? Let's hear it.
My background, probably this cool hat.
Right. That is a cool hat.
If you couldn't read that, it says pee pee poo poo, which is one of my favorite things that my son says. You know what? Something I like a lot in my background. I don't really like superlatives, but is that thing in the middle there?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It comes right off the wall. But this is a wedding gift from my friend Andrew Fernandez, who's a really talented uh, sculptor. And yeah, I don't know what the hell it is, and I don't know that he knows what the hell it is, but I like it a lot, and it means a lot to me, and I always have it anywhere where I have my computer set up. So
Can we see it again
Yeah. Show it to the camera.
and talk so I can see it better?
oh, talk. So
Yeah. There you go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah.
so it
there
kind
you
of looks like, I think he like took a slice out of an avocado.
An apple.
And- Well, that really seems like a pit, but maybe it's an apple.
Huh.
And then did this like metal like backing on it, and then put it on this nice wood block. Bada
That's
bing,
cool.
bada boom.
That's cool.
I'm gonna go.
I,
put
I
back-
miss Andrew. What a guy.
That's cool.
All right. So I have a game for us to play this morning.
Mm.
Little question that'll lead us to think through how we would handle a situation. So I want to pretend that you have a loved one, or you need to find treatment for your kid, for your loved one. What is like the number one thing you're looking for as you're looking for treatment options? So let's pretend young adult, male or female. Lucas, you go male since you have a son. Cole, you go female since you have daughter.
Okay. Okay. I can go. I have my answer.
I do too.
I'm gonna go first
Okay.
because mine doesn't have anything to do with demographics. My number one thing I'm looking for is word of mouth, like somebody that has either been in the program or somebody that I know and trust has like had a family member go through that program. That's probably my number one. And whether we're talking about like my mom, brother, kids, wife, friend, like if I always like feel more confident about a place if I know someone who's had a personal experience with it, or I know a person who knows a person who's had a personal experience with it. So
Yeah.
I think that's like the number one thing, regardless of demographic for me.
Okay.
And then you can also then it would branch into other things, obviously like accessibility, like from a financial standpoint, a geographical standpoint, programmatic things. Like if I believe in it, being in mental health and being a therapist, there certainly are certain things that I would want to look at and filter out. But I would start my search with talking to people who can maybe like give me some insight of like what it's really like as like a client or a patient going through that program.
Yeah. Solid choice. Lucas.
For the demographic you said, and Cole, I really like your answer, and I should have thought harder of like on something that didn't matter for demographic, but I just got that so stuck in my head. But then once you said that demographic, it was like length of time of the program, having like a long-term plan. Yeah, that it's not like 30 days and come back home, or even 60 days or 90 days really and come back home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Be the things that like would worry and concern me the most. So even if that's not in one program, it would be having like a longer term plan for where they go and how long they stay there.
Got it. So would you say that changes with age? Like,
Yeah.
would you say that that's different for a 40-year-old that they don't need a longer term?
Yeah. I think that realistically, it's going to be a lot tougher for like a 45-year-old dad of 3 that are under 10 and a wife with a career, that he's just probably not going to be able to take a year off or, yeah, go travel to like 3 states away and stay there for a year and not see his kids and not see his wife. And
Okay, so is that just coming from it's an unlikely place for them to be able to do it? Because what if you have the 45-year-old not married, doesn't have kids, could do long term if he could get a job while he's in the sober living program?
then I'd go back to the first one.
Okay, so then you would say you definitely longer the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of like just like what's going on in their life. And with that they can like reasonably get into. Like if they have a really great career and a really great job, is it worth losing that for the extra 6 or 7 months in like a structured environment? It's just a tougher call to make. And then a marriage and kids, and is that fair on, you know, someone's spouse and their children to be away for that long?
Yeah.
It just may not be real.
Yeah, I would say what matters a little bit more than even just the age is the values, like the internal values that are dictating like this return to home. And so I have had conversations with people who maybe don't have some of the traditional things that I value in terms of like a family or a job back home, but they still like want to be back there relatively quick. And they say, hey, this is where I'm from. And so you have to do some exploration of that, of like, are you doing that just because you're scared, you know, or there is like a familiarity with where you're from? Or even like from a motivation standpoint, do you want to still be around some of the people, places, and things to allow you to continue the same behaviors? Is there like a willingness to change issue? And then, so that's on one hand, or is it more of like, no, I do have like a wife that I'm very devoted to, or family I'm very devoted to, and like figuring that out, like, or a job that I've like built and really like, what are you returning home to? Like, what are you going back to? Or is it time to create a new home? You know, so I think there's a lot of like exploration that has to be done with that. But yeah, I do think typically for younger people though, they're not as established wherever they're from. You know, they maybe have like their family of origin and their high school and home they grew up in, but they're ready to launch and they just don't know how to launch well. So if you can go somewhere and get stable and clarity, maybe that's a good spot to launch to, and then to figure out where to launch to next.
And that's a good point too, Cole, of like the values issue, because I could also see that cutting the other way, and I've seen it that way, where someone doesn't want to go home because that's where responsibility and commitment and like accountability is waiting for them there. And so it's like, no, I think I just need to stay here, and you know, almost like hiding out in treatment or thing, or 12-step groups or whatever. That it's like at some point you got to go back and face that.
Yeah, that's a scary thing. I feel like that's way more rare, but you do see it every once in a while. The person that just wants to like, as soon as they get to the place where it's time to launch back into life, it's like, oh, let me just reset this whole game here. I'm going to go maybe relapse, go use something, and then go back to square one and stay in the cycle of like detox, treatment, sober living.
Yeah. What was your answer, David?
This is fun because we have 3 different answers, but mine was access to leadership. So, and what I mean by that is like being able to get on the phone and talk to someone on the leadership team within a program. I think that goes a long way with me. And I think one of the biggest red flags is looking at these huge treatment conglomerates, like getting onto their websites and you can't even see who the owners or who the leadership is. It's just like I'm sure you've all seen these websites, but it's like a very Google-ish model. Like you can't even tell who works there. And to me, that says like no one's willing to take accountability. Honestly, that's how I read it. And that may be wrong for me to read it that way, but I see that as like, okay, if shit goes wrong, I don't have anyone to contact, anyone to call. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are all really important. It's just interesting where we all like, and I would say we all agree with the other points that we've made. it's just interesting, like where we enter it at. You know what I mean? Like what's our like the first thing that we're looking, and then we go to the other items on our checklist.
Yeah.
You know, because I'd be willing to look past that if I knew. I say I had like a good friend whose kid also went to that program, and they could speak really well to it. It does help if they're like, "Hey, we worked with Bob," you know, like make up a name. We worked with Bob. Bob's awesome. And then if I like talk to Bob, even if Bob isn't on like in ownership, but he is like a leader within the company, like he's like the head therapist, or he's like really good at like as like a behavioral tech, like to really like help people be comfortable in their living situation while at that place. That continuity would make me feel a lot better too. That I'm sending my loved one somewhere where there's going to be stability and a safe place for them to get better.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. I didn't mean ownership team. I meant like leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
someone, to be able to go up the ladder if things are going really well or really bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To get answers. And that's a complaint I hear from a ton of families who go to these bigger centers. It's like, I can't get anyone on the phone. Like no one will ever call me back. And it's already a little difficult in treatment when you have to sign, everything's HIPAA compliant and you have to sign these releases of information to people. Maybe they don't want to sign one for their mom or dad to get information, but I would want to make sure that wherever my loved one was going, that I can get updates and I can communicate with someone there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, especially because, it may not be appropriate or, for me to communicate with that loved one, and they want them to kind of take a break and be a little bit pulled back in communication with people like outside of treatment. So for me to have assurances of like, okay, well, at least I can talk to a therapist or a tech or a clinical director, like somebody to give me updates in that interim time when I can't hear from them because they don't have phone privileges or something.
Yeah, it's really hard too because I think the common theme in all three of our answers is trust. And for mine, like I would want to I would trust it more, be more willing to trust if I knew somebody who went through that program, or knew somebody who had gone through a program. I would trust it way more. For David, it's like if I can talk to someone who is going to be like a consistent like presence, in my loved one's life, like I would trust them more. For Lucas, it's more of like the length of time is like something that causes you to trust more because you've seen that on a personal level, both for yourself and for our clients. But that trusting it, because it's such a personal business, it's such a personal like experience. It's really hard to like have trust immediately. And so I think consistency is where, if you can just get people to like at least buy into the idea that this might be the place, then being consistent and having integrity of like, you're going to do what you said you were going to do. That's where the trust really comes in. But that takes time, to build with family members.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got to jump on another call, but I have an anecdote from the weekend I thought was really cool. So we went camping this weekend, but we went for the first time ever boat camping. So we all like loaded up. It was me and two other dads and all our kids. There were like 6 kids total. And we got in a pontoon boat and we like went across the lake. And it's like, in my opinion, like one of the most beautiful areas in the Southeast, to this campsite. Beach like we literally like pulled up like we were conquering like explorers. We like pull up to the beach, get all of our stuff, and it was a lot of stuff, and like hike it, make it the kids do like hiking it up the hill to the campsite, and then just spent the whole weekend like tubing and fishing around this lake with kids ranging from like 5th grade to kindergarten. So the oldest kid was like 11 years old and the youngest was 6. So they're very like fun age. But one of my buddies who owns the boat was talking to his son who's in 3rd grade, and he like dropped his little like, I think it just kind of like spontaneously came out. But I was like, that is like so well said. but his son wanted to drive the boat. And so we have other kids in the back, like being tubing and like being pulled by the boat. But the dad says, like, look, you've been doing a really good job of listening, and that makes me trust you more. And when I trust you more, you get to do cooler stuff. So like, I'm really like trusting you right now. So yeah, come drive this boat. And he like, as he's driving it, the son is being like really receptive to feedback from the dad, which isn't always true as a parent. He's like, you know, driving the boat in a way that's like responsible, but also like still having fun. And then the dad said again, he said, see, when you follow my directions and I can trust you, you get to do cooler stuff. And then he told me, he goes, I mean, that's just like the key to the quest of life, bro. You know, like that's the key to the quest of life. Like, you know, listen to the people who are trying to help you and build trust with them. And then you get to do cooler stuff. And I was like dying laughing at the way he said it. Like that's the key to the quest of life. But it really is a lot of truth to that. So I just thought that was like a great like anecdote. It doesn't really tie to like the financial part of what we're talking about. But yeah, I thought it was just like a really good anecdote to just like, yeah, just trust people and make yourself trustworthy, you know?
Yeah, I love it. Trust goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Mm-hmm.
What
For
lake?
sure.
What lake was it?
Lake Jocassee,
Okay, that's not-
Ah,
very, very sacred and mystical place, I would say.
absolutely.
Highly recommend it to anybody who has never been there. But don't everybody go there. All right.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that's,
be a sacred and mystical place.
but there is like
However,
it's
they
such
only
a,
allow
it-
so many boats at a time in there.
exactly. It is a protected, like it's one of those things, like it's for everyone. You know, like I mean you can go and like spend a day on the beach or get a kayak, but you have to work to get there. Like you can't just like show up. It's not super accessible. Like you have to drive a good ways. You have to get there early enough to get a parking spot. You have to make sure you have boat reservations. It takes some hard work, but then there's like such a like, you know, like a fruit of your labors right there that when you get out on that lake and just the really clear water surrounded by green mountains, it's just like, I don't know, one of those really rejuvenating and sacred places, I would say, for me at least.
Yeah. Did kids jump off of the rock wall?
We didn't do the rock wall, but we did another jumping rock.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we got up on it and we're jumping off of it, having a good time. We had a couple of kids like have some mishaps. You know, they didn't pencil in, you know, one cannonball and another one of my kids kind of inadvertently belly flopped.
Oof.
So we learned some lessons the hard way. You know what I'm saying? But we also had like a really good time. So, and it was fun too for the dads because we got to be kids too. And I think that's always really good for kids to see. They need to see their parents playing, you know, or even just the adults like uncles or, you know, aunts, grandparents. They need to see those people playing. Like that does a lot for a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I think even for our sober living guys or our clients, like I think it does a lot for them to see us like goofing around and playing every now and then. Makes us more human. So
Mhm.
Absolutely.
anyways, I'm gonna hop off and to let you guys like keep rocking and rolling. Okay.
All right.
All right. See you boys.
See ya.
Cool.